So welcome back to the Prescription to Travel MD podcast. I am really excited about our guest today, Dr. Lola Day. She is going to introduce us to the world of balance and productivity in travel. Dr. Day is a pediatric cardiologist. She is a podcaster. She is the CEO and founder of Lollitasking, and they specialize in helping professional women who have ADHD or who are just simply overwhelmed to be able to focus on what they need to do to have time for what matters most. And so she's here to share a little bit about her journey from her medical career to forming this coaching program, and also tell us a little bit about how she finds time to travel the world and the promise of Africa. So I'm excited to explore her insights on productivity and family and travel and cultural exploration. So without further ado, Dr. Day.
Thank you for having me, Courtney. It's such an honor to be on your podcast today. You know, I love traveling, but I wish I would get more into it.
Yeah, so tell me about how did you get started? Where did you go to school? What do you do now? What's life look like for you?
Oh, story. So I am from Atlanta. I grew up in the Atlanta suburbs. Like every time I say Atlanta, they're like in or out. But my family is Nigerian American, so I was 100% Nigerian and 100% America. I claim both places. I did undergrad at the University of Georgia, go Dogs, and did medical school at Wisconsin, and I did my residency at Cincinnati Children's Hospital and fellowship at Duke. And I did my advanced imaging year, so I'm also a fetal cardiologist. So I do 50% general peds and 50% fetal cardiology and cardiac imaging. So I did that at CHOA, Children's Healthcare of Atlanta, Emory in Atlanta. So I worked there for a little bit, and then I've been in Orlando ever since. And people are they laugh when they find out I still practice as a physician. I know there's a great migration of physicians leaving the workforce. And I always try to encourage people that before you leave the workforce, like there's a reason why you became a doctor. Like going back to that reason and seeing if you can practice medicine on your own terms. Because a lot of people who do leave the workforce is because they are unable to practice medicine the way they had envisioned it for themselves, right? And so I help a lot of like physicians, lawyers, just try to recreate life the way they wish it could be. And instead of it being a wish, it actually becomes a reality once they work with me. So that's the multitasking part of my company. And as you said earlier, also I have two different companies. I have another company called AfriVA Hub. That's where I help small businesses get professional assistance to help them grow their business. That way they can kind of focus on the visionary part of their business and they can have someone else doing the work. Because what I find out with a lot of my clients is that they want to do all those things, but they end up being a worker in their business instead of an owner in their business. So trying to kind of help them. So with my life coach experience, my productivity experience, kind of put all that in. Because one of the biggest things I tell my clients is you need to delegate. So me telling people to delegate, I keep finding VAs for them to help them with delegation. And that's how I lead into AfriVA Hub. The Promise of Africa. It's a co-joint ownership with one of my friends, Dr. Fata Forna. And it came out of our love to kind of show the world why we love Africa. We felt like Africa has had a really, really bad marketing and the branding has been horrible. So like when I would tell people I was Nigerian, the first thing they would think about was not how amazing Nigeria was. It was always like the negative stereotypes. And the biggest issue I tell people is like, nobody talks about like downtown Atlanta, right? Nobody talks about like the ghetto part, or when they think of New York, they think of Times Square because that's how America has branded it. So the Promise of Africa, it's a high-end luxury travel group is what we like to call it. We do know not all parts of Africa is great. However, we choose to take people to the best part of Africa to show them the other side because we feel like there's enough negativity out. So we take about 40 to 50 people to different African countries. The first place we had gone as a company was Sierra Leone. We've been to Tanzania. We've been to Egypt. We're going to Ghana this year. We're going to South Africa next year. So that one is more of a passion for me than a business. It's more of like, I love to travel. Why not? And in traveling, I'm also showing my children the world. Like, I pulled them out of school to go to the trips. And I mean, that sounds bad, but not really. Like, it's not like I'm pulling them for a whole semester or something, right? I do think like the idea of education as we know it growing up is totally different now. Like my kids, like the other day, she was telling my husband, oh yeah, I'm working on Python, which is like a coding language. And my husband was like, oh my gosh, like he's a programmer. And he was like, I learned that in college, like, and she's in 7th grade. So like the idea of education is not just you going to class and reading a book. There's that lifelong education that I feel my children needs to be holistic as well. So that's why I travel with them.
Well, that's a lot to unpack. Wow, you're doing it all. So did you always have all this figured out in terms of like your efficiency so that way you can be able to manage? I mean, you're running a household, you're running luxury tours into Africa, you are managing your pediatric cardiology practice. I mean, you just have a lot going on. And so as someone, I think I can imagine, I don't have ADHD, although sometimes I think as like ER doctors, I think there's always like a little element of that too.
Yeah, I would say 99% of ER doctors have ADHD. Just kidding.
Probably. But just, being able to manage all those things is overwhelming. So
yeah, I did not have it all figured out. I think anybody that has met people with ADHD know that we're very passion driven. When we love something, we do well in it. Like if things are boring, we just don't do it. But I also believe that you can do it, but you have to do it effectively and you have to let go of some things. The most important thing I let go is control. And I also believe in seasons and reason. All the things I do, there's a reason why I do it and there's a passion of why I do it. But I also have seasons that I do them. For example, Promise of Africa, I could choose to go to 5 different countries, but I don't have the bandwidth. But guess what? I could go to one country. So we do one country a year, and that's also vacation for me. And we have an assistant that helps us run all the day-to-day of that. That way I could stay in what I call my zone of genius. So my zone of genius is strategizing, visionary, where I don't see it as work. I'm just having fun. This is what I love to do. I love to talk about the best hotels we can stay at, right? And in a lot of the places we go to, we have someone on ground who's a travel agent. I'm not a travel agent. We're a luxury curated group, right? We have a travel agent who does all the research, and all we do is tell our friends about it and we go together, right? So you have to be able to let go of a little bit of control. I tell people all the time that I feel like when people are like, oh my gosh, you do a lot. And I'm like, yeah, I just give that vibe that I do a lot. I actually don't do much. It just, I give that feeling I do a lot. I'm just a master delegator. Like I am good at staying in my zone of genius. For example, I love talking, so I love podcasts, right? I love coaching, so I coach like one person at a time. Like I coach because I love to coach, not because I want to make money from coaching, right? I'm a physician and that's my work. That's where I get majority of my money from. So yes, I focus majority of my time in there. Another thing I do encourage people to do is something called time blocking. I have a time in the morning where between this time and this time, this is when I do business. Between this time and this time, I do work and I don't do anything else. Between this time and this time, this is when I, hang out with my kids and I don't have my phone. You can call me. You're not going to get me, Like being able to structure those time is very important. So I budget my time kind of like I budget my money, putting things where they need to go to. I always also talk about having a vision for your life. What kind of family do you want to have? What kind of business do you want to have? And in doing that, also realizing that, okay, in this business, what is my zone of genius, right? So for example, in African VA Hub, I am great in teaching my VAs how to be amazing VAs and what clients are looking for. I am great in doing my monthly teachings to tell them, okay, you need to learn about productivity tips that'll help them be better VAs. What I'm not good at is the daily day-to-day managing, right? So I hire a manager that does that. So staying in your zone of genius is one of the best things I tell people to do. And in you doing that, it helps you better prioritize what you want to do. And when you don't do things because you're doing it, but you're doing it because it's a vision and you love it, it seems so much easier. Like you feel like you're having fun, right? So that's really my secret sauce.
I think you're being a little modest though, because I feel like even just to have the ability to delegate and to let go of control takes a lot of practice. And so even though you're not doing everything, you're still doing a lot, and you still have to manage those things and know that like if you're responsible for making sure that those things go smoothly, you know? And so I still give you a pat on the back for doing all this amazingness. Yes. And so how does all that productivity flow into your travel and being able to plan family travel for yourself and your family?
It's funny because my friends know me very well. If you want Lola to be somewhere, you gotta let her know ahead of time, like a whole year ahead of time, because like my whole next year is booked. So if you haven't told me by now about something happening in summer 2025, I probably won't be there.
Yeah.
And I think it's one of those things that my friends just know. Like when, for example, a lot of my friends turn 40 between last 2 years and next year. Like I have texted them, if you really want me to be at your 40, I need to know your dates now because I'm planning ahead of time. So I tell people productivity, the biggest part of productivity is the preparation and planning ahead of time. So I always say that's that. Another thing that we have decided as a family is that every year we're going to take one international trip. One has to be Africa. So in Africa, we made that very intentional for our family, and maybe another international trip to another African country. One national trip, right? One trip with the kids and one trip with just me and my husband. That one we just started this year. And our first trip is next week.
Yeah. Where are you going?
We're actually going to Miami for the weekend. We're going to see Usher. And it's just us, no kids. It seems far away, but not really. It's down the street. But yeah, like, believe it or not, that's a big deal for us because we didn't have family close by. So being able to just leave our kids and just go away is such a big deal. But it was something like when we were talking about where we wanted our marriage to go, we're like, okay, where do we see a deficit, right? Again, planning, talking, discussion. We're like, okay, yeah, we're good with the family. We take family trips, but we don't take boyfriend, girlfriend trip. Like, I need my boyfriend trip back, you know, I need my girlfriend trip back. And just go, and we joke, but it's true. Like, listen, I need my boyfriend back, you know? So like anytime we want to do that, like, I need my boyfriend back because this whole wifey hubby thing is a little boring. So let me get my boyfriend back.
Get your boyfriend back. And how old are your kids?
So my oldest is 12, and then I have a 9 and a 7-year-old.
So what tips do you have for other women who want to be able to do the same, whether it's, you know, maintaining the boyfriend-girlfriend relationships or, you know, being able to travel with their kids or going places that are a little further away from home than usual?
It starts with sitting down, believe it or not. Like when I talk to women in my program or group, we start with sitting down and creating what I call your life plan. It sounds very like, oh, why would you make your life so structured? But when you have a business, you sit down and you say, where do I want my business to go? What's the vision for my business? What's the mission? What are the goals I have for my business? I feel like a lot of us don't actually sit down and talk about that and voice it and write it down. So for us, every year we review our family plan. So you have a personal life plan and then you have a family plan. And it's like, okay, in our family, what do we want for our family this year? What is important for us? For me and my husband, we think it's very important for our kids to have a world view. You can't have a world view if you just sit at home. So because we have talked together about that, it's easy for us to be like, okay, we're going to take these 2 vacations. Okay, we're going to put them out of school for 5 days, right? My kids still get straight A's because I don't play about that. I'm that crazy mother, you know? But what are we going to do to make sure they make it up? So like last year when my kids went to Egypt, when they came back from school, they did a presentation for their class about Egypt with pictures and, you know, so they taught their friends in school as well. So that's so important in every aspect. So like when we talk about life plan or family plan or whatever, I literally go, okay, for myself, where is my health? Where do I want to be in my health? And like literally writing it down in 5 years, in 20 years, in 1 year. Like this year, I was like, I have gained so much weight. I need my weight back. So the last year, I have lost like 20 pounds. It doesn't seem a lot. I still have at least 20 pounds to go. People are like, you look good. I'm like, trust me. I'm like 40 pounds from like my 7-year-old. Like how much I weighed before I had my 7-year-old. So like I had to say that. I'm like, okay, let's be real. What are we going to do? Right? Like actually looking through it like that. And then the next step you go to is your relationship. What kind of relationship do you want with your husband or your partner or whatever? Decide, okay, what is lacking? And when you say what is lacking, it doesn't necessarily mean that there is something wrong with you. And there may be something wrong, right? Or with the relationship. What can we do better? Like, we can always do better, right? And it's just one thing you focus on. So for us this year, it's like, we don't really do anything together, really. So what are we going to do? So we're like, okay, we're going to go to either one marriage conference together or one thing where we're just going for the weekend and just have fun. Like me and my husband started dating in 2002, 2020. I wish. 2002, right? So we've been together for like 22 years.
Yeah. Wow.
And like during that time, I think was when one of Usher Confessions came out. So we have like a lot of memories because we used to talk about so like, okay, it's coming. Let's go for the weekend and just have fun. It took us having that conversation and actually writing it down and having that discussion. And then the next step is, okay, my businesses. There are some businesses I'm going to close this year because of discussions I've had for myself. Like, okay, where do I want to focus in my business? Like I always say, there are reasons and there are seasons. One of them, believe it or not, is Promise of Africa. We're going from it being a tour group to it being something a little bit different to make it even a little bit easier, right? For example, multitasking. I used to be so big on multitasking and so big on productivity. I've toned that down a little bit because I felt like right now I'm in the season of AfriVA Hub and going full force on AfriVA Hub and just focusing on that. Because you're right, it is a lot, right? And there's still that mental load I have to put into it. So which one do I need to focus on and which one and I don't necessarily see me decreasing in one as a failure or not whatever. It's just a matter of, okay, out of all this, which one do you think is making the biggest impact? Not that the rest don't, but AfriVA Hub, I've seen so much impact in my clients and in the people I'm providing jobs for. So that's where I've kind of like put my energy. I'm always big on energy as well. That's where I've put my energy in. So always looking at your energy, looking at your vision, looking at your energy, looking at, you've heard of Marie Kondo, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So Marie Kondo always talks about, throw away the things that don't give you joy. I always say Marie Kondo your life, right?
I'm always trying to Marie Kondo my life.
Okay. Like if it doesn't give you joy, you need to reassess and say, do I still need this in my life, right? So I always reevaluate that at all. And if it is not giving you joy, you can't get rid of it, then you have to figure out how can it give you joy? Like how can I make it give me joy if I can't get rid of it, So there's so many little things like that I always do to just being present, staying in my vision, reviewing my vision all the time, and making sure we're all on the same page at the end of the day.
Yes. Well, I love that you point out the importance of just reprioritizing the things that you have set up, because it is easy to fall into the trap of like, I have all these different things, and you can't be pouring into a new venture or like making it better if you're spread out. And so I'd love to hear more about this new venture that you're taking on with Promise of Africa.
Oh, the Promise of Africa? Yeah. So with Promise of Africa, it was a venture between myself and my partner, Dr. Fatou. Dr. Fatou also is working on an amazing, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, she's an obstetrician and she's partnering with an MFM and they're starting a multivitamin that will kind of help women with fertility. So that's taking a lot of her time, right? And then AfriVA Hub is also taking a lot of my time at this point. And we found out that we just did not have the bandwidth to give Promise of Africa the same love and attention that we just want to give it. So we're still going to be traveling, but not in a business venture. Does that make sense? So like our friends are still going to follow us wherever we're going. But the way Promise of Africa works right now is that we tell you where we're going, you just pay and you show up, all inclusive, right? Whereas going forward, we still need to talk about this, but it may be like, we're going to Namibia. Here's the information, book your stuff on your own type of situation.
Okay, so I can still go on the group trip?
Yeah. I think we're still going to do it. It's just going to look a little bit different.
Okay. The hardest part about doing all these interviews is that everybody has like these amazing trips planned, and I just want to go on everybody's trip. And I go to a conference and I'm like, hey, I want to go do this next weekend. And my husband is like, who are you? What are you doing?
No, like Promise of Africa is so amazing. I don't think we'll ever like totally leave it. A lot of our tour groups in part, we have become like families, right? My kids have traveled with some of these kids now for like 3-4 years. Thanksgiving, we're all going to Ghana and they cannot wait to see their friends, you know? And when we go to future trips, the same thing. So I think it's something we're going to continue doing. But I think the business aspect of it, which I hope people still come. I think that's what people loved about it the most, that it was all inclusive. Like you pay one fee, it covered your flights, your housing, your, like everything. But I think going forward, we'll curate the trip and we're just saying, this is where we're going. You pay the travel agent, you pay the hotel, you do your own and we'll meet there. I think is how we're going to go going forward.
Yeah. And I think you still get that same element of these are the people that I've been traveling with, and you still get that experience. So it'll still be great.
Exactly. So I think that's where we're going to leave, but we're still talking about it because all our friends are like, wait, what? My yearly Africa trip, like it's become a thing and now we want to stop. Yeah, but with businesses, there's certain things like you said, no matter how much you delegate, there's still people's money on the line. There's still, we still have to sign things for hotels. We still have to sign things for airline. We still, so like that aspect of it, I think we have our love and vision for traveling to Africa is still there. But our love and vision for doing it as a business is no longer.
Other trips that you have planned for yourself for the rest of the year?
So we talked about Ghana. We're going to South Africa next year. We've actually talked about maybe even doing like a southeast trip of the US. And we like to look through okay, so what's in Florida that we've never been to? Like my kids, we went to St. Augustine recently. They learned about St. Augustine. We went there. It's like one of the oldest cities in, North America. And it was just amazing. I love history personally. So I'm one of those with that geek when I go to different places. I want to learn more about the culture, the history, why people were this, what the food is like, so I just love it.
And I think we get so wrapped up in being able to see all the places that are outside of our local places. There's so much to do in Florida and you're so close,
Oh my gosh, we were just talking about it. And I was like, even in the United States, I feel like we are not capitalizing about even the different states we have in the US, right? So which is why we started talking about, okay, we're going to do one local, one national. We're going to New York as well. I forgot to mention that. We're going to do one national. We'll do one international, which is Africa, and then another international maybe, right? So it could be the Bahamas, it could be Antigua, it could be wherever, Europe. Oh, I forgot we went to Paris also. Went to Paris recently for the summer. So we went to London. They've been to so many places. I'm like, wait, we went to London, we went to Paris.
And so when you travel, do you do points at all?
That's where I'm lacking. If I tell you how much points I have just sitting, you're going to scream.
Let me help you.
My sister is like, sis, I could take some of that points off your hand. I think for me, and maybe that's where I have to be honest when it comes to time. I'm that kind of person. I want to understand what I'm doing before I do it. And I just don't understand the point system. And a course is not going to help me. And I don't know if anybody's listening. I'm one of those people that I have so many business ideas, #ADHD. If you create a business where you can help people learn how to not learn,
Or you can spend their points for it.
Yeah, no spending for them, but like if they came to you and say, I have this point, what can I do with it? And just curate something for I would totally hire you.
I'm working on that. That's in the pipeline. So yes, yes.
People like me, I really have, again, I'm big on things I have zero passion to learn. Like I try to learn it. I'm just like, okay, I don't have time for this. So if I came to you, Courtney, and I'm like, Courtney, I have 2 million points. What can I do with this? You know?
And it's fun for me. I book these trips in my mind all the time, places I can't go because we can't get time off or, something else comes up. But yeah, so I would love that. Let me plan your next trip.
Okay, you got me. Because I'm like, what am I going to do with all these points? Like, and I tell people how much points I have. They're like, wait, what?
I can only imagine.
Or I waste them because I don't know how to use them.
Yeah. You're buying Amazon gift cards and...
Exactly. I've definitely spent like almost 200,000 points on like random crap.
Yeah, I've got you. We're going to talk after this. All the things. You're already taking all these like wonderful trips.
I definitely Googled it. I'm like, is there a point curator person there that can...
They actually do have people who will actually book trips for you. So if you have the points and you want them, you can pay them like $50 or $100 and they'll book a trip for you. Yeah. So I just came back from the points conference. I'm a little points obsessed over the past couple of years. And there are these girls who will actually book a trip for you so you can do what's called like a round the world trip. And you basically you're flying around the world. So you have to make a stop in 3 of the different regions. And you can't go backwards, but you can go forwards. And there are all these like different rules that you have to follow. But it will allow you to book like a business class trip for like 120,000 points. Like,
oh, I see.
Yeah, nonstop per person. Yeah. So, and you have to be able to plan a year in advance, and that's what you do anyway. So this is like right up your alley. So.
Thanks, Courtney. I'm already daydreaming about 2026 because 2025 is gone. So
yes, 2026 is calling your name. So yeah, so you're gonna get your around the world trip booked, and then you can go with your boyfriend because it's usually easier to book just 2 people. So find somewhere to leave the kids and go. Yeah, I'd love that for you.
Yeah, I would love that. I love that.
So what's next for you?
Travel wise or life wise? Because I'm in different buckets.
Different buckets. So what's next for you life-wise?
Life-wise, I was actually just talking to my sister right now. I'm like, I'm in my season of enjoyment. I'm in this season where I have grinded so much that I'm just enjoying the fruits of my labor. You know how you like sow seeds and I'm just seeing the harvest and I'm just enjoying my life. That's really what's next. Like I have done. Now I'm at delegate, enjoy.
So I'm going to be signing up for this coaching when we're done with this so I can learn how to delegate.
Hey, yes, let's do it. One of the biggest thing with delegation, especially with we high achieving women, is this idea of control. I find out a lot of women don't want to delegate. It's like if I delegate and it's not done right, I'm just gonna end up doing it myself, and that's even more frustrating. So I'm just gonna do it. But that's actually one of the counterintuitive thing you can do, because what happens is then the person who you delegate to doesn't learn how to do it, right? Because you're just gonna take it over. I talk about how my husband would help me pack lunch for the kids. And in the beginning, I would cringe because I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so not healthy. And I had to be like, you know what? It's just one meal. They get a healthy breakfast. They get a healthy lunch. That's okay. I mean, a healthy dinner. If they have a little bit of snacks in their lunch, whatever, and I had to be okay with that, right? And then in him doing it so much, now he does a better lunch than I do. Like now more healthy, but it took me being like, okay, babes, this is how I want it done. And then another thing I talk about is creating SOPs. So they're operating procedures that businesses use to kind of like keep things afloat, right? So doing it for your family as well. So when even the kids, I think I was talking in the conference, like even the kids have a SOP. When you get back from school, you do this, you do this, you do this, you do this. That way everybody is on the same page. You can't just expect kids just to remember. They just won't remember, not because they want to forget, because they're kids. But if they know step 1, I do this, step 2, I just do step 3, I do this, then you don't have to keep telling them over and over again to do it. Same thing. I don't want to do operating procedures for your husband. However, but let's say I like laundry done a certain way, right? And you have someone that does your laundry. You write it out. Step 1, do this. Step 2, you do this. Step 3, do this. Step 4, do this. And then it makes it easier for whoever you want to delegate to can just follow those protocol as you've written it. So that helps with delegation a lot.
So where can other people find out about you if they want to achieve this level of efficacy and efficiency in their own lives?
I have different programs, but just email me at hello, which is HELLO, at lollitasking, LOLLIETASKING.com. If you need a virtual assistant, though, which I'm like an expert in finding virtual assistants for people, you have to email info at afrivahub, and that's AFRIVAHUB.com.
Good deal. Yep. And so we'll make sure that we put all of that in the show notes so people know where to find you. So that way maybe their lives become a little bit more organized. And I think once you kind of take some of the workload off of your plate, maybe you will have more time for travel and enjoying life a little bit more.
It's all about intentionality. It's all about planning. I always say you make room for what is important to you. So if traveling is important to you as much as it is for me, you create the space for it and you make it happen.
And I think that's really important, especially if you have your own practice or you're in a position where you feel like you have to do everything and you can't rely on other people. Just being able to take some of what you've said and implement it and say, you know what, I'm going to release a little bit of the control and know that there is probably someone who can do it better because that's the only thing that they're focusing on. And I can prioritize, higher level tasks and put my energy in those projects. And so, yeah. So, see, I'm learning. Well, thank you so much for coming on to talk with us today.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Yes, it's been great. Well, it was like having us because I feel like I was having like multiple different Lolas. The Lola who's the Lola VA, you got Lola Coach, Lola Take Me to Africa. We've got all the Lolas. So
and they all encompass who I am. It depends on the seasons.
This depends on the season. Yes, right. Well, thank you again.
Thank you.